What's good? What's good? Welcome back. You are inside the Culture Divide Experiment. We are live at the RL Hotel, and it's been a couple of weeks since we've been out. We got a couple of special guests here.
It's been like 2 weeks. It hasn't been too long.
Well, not too long. Not too long. I want to thank the RL Hotel for all the love they show us and their appreciation. Big shout out to the staff here for getting us all set up. Big shout out to Lauren for always getting here first to get us all set up and everything. We appreciate it. My girls appreciate it. My wife appreciates it. Trust me on that, okay? You don't understand how it is getting all these folks together.
All right, with your CP time.
Out the house all at one time.
See, trying to get 4 people together and out the house with all these little personalities is a challenge.
It's real. It's real. It's real. Today, we are going to have a couple of different topics. We're going to talk about some things that we've been doing over the last couple of weeks. We're going to be talking about some things that are happening every day, and we're going to be talking about some things that's going to be in your mind for the next couple of weeks or the next hour, depending on what's trending. The first thing I want to do is introduce our host and co-host, Miss SJ over here to my right, Big Kev on the left, and Miss Lauren B right here waving, and our special guest, Brian Heat. Now, if you haven't seen this brother speak, you have to take the time. It's real. We saw you a year ago at the men's. It was a teacher forum. Mm-hmm. That was the first time, and a lot of times I see people speak just because I do it myself. So it's like, so that was okay. But now I was like, whoa, no, you blew me away. It was like, I wanted to the energy you brought to it, the everything, the fire, the heat, like hashtag heat, like seriously, it was real. And I just want to say,
ignite.
Thank you.
Right.
Hashtag
ignite.
Ignite.
There you go.
I think I've seen that on a couple of your hashtags, as a matter of fact. So, I want to say thank you for all you do, because I see you out there with our young men, and that's exactly what they need to see. Yes. And that's kind of how I want to start this off. So a couple of weeks ago, we were at the Mother and Sons Forum, Mother and Sons Summit. You focus a lot on fathers and sons. Tell me where that came from.
Well, first of all, I want to say thank you for inviting me on the platform today. This is an amazing spot. For those who know about the RL Hotel, I got educated this morning. Very posh, very upscale. I'm feeling the vibration. It's really nice. But I think for me, it started off by my own father, and the impact I saw him. My father is he's not a touchy-feely guy, hardworking, brother from Pittsburgh. That hard worker, Midwest. That's right. But he's a provider. He was a provider, and he was educated, Carnegie Mellon University, corporate America guy, but always spent time, always dropping jewels on me, always present. And I think as I grew up, I started to realize everyone didn't have that in their home. And I started to see the implications of not having that as I got older. And some decision making I saw people making that if a father was there, they would not have maybe took that course of action. Right. So as I got older as an educator, I felt myself connected to men of color. And wanting to have that same impact in their life as well.
Excellent. Now, you're doing a mentorship now. Tell us a little bit about that.
So in 2009, my background's in education. I went to South Carolina State, so big up all HBCUs.
Big up, HBCU Nation.
That's right. But I graduated in 1998, and then I started working for Prince George's County. And typical teacher, my background, classroom teacher, vice principal, dean of students. But around 2009, I got kind of uncomfortable in the regular school system watching kids get socially promoted. And if you guys don't know, that means they're really not making the marks they need to be in terms of being proficient. But because the teacher could not engage these young men of color, they would just pass them on to the next grade level. So I remember leaving in 2009. I met with Charlene Dukes, who's the president of Prince George Community College. And she wanted to be ahead of the curve when it came to student retention, meaning that the numbers across the country, men of color were going to college at a higher rate, but they weren't staying and finishing. So we joined forces and built a program called the Diverse Male Student Initiative Program. We celebrated our 10th year this year. I've had 1,000 men go through the program, so we want to give it up for that one time. That's a good thing, right?
Yeah,
1,000 men, over 1,000.
Okay.
Wow.
We had an award-winning documentary released in 2015. And that did very well to highlight the program, but we focus on academic achievement, leadership, and entrepreneurship and career readiness. So again, I'm not just someone who talks about the work. I actually live it out every day, and the guys have been an amazing journey.
Wow.
That's awesome.
Congratulations on that. Kev, you had a question. I saw you.
No, I am.
Oh, okay. So I got another one. and just so you know, we might get some folks chiming in on because we are live right now. So we might get some questions coming in, and then we'll take time to ask those questions for folks that are watching us as well. I heard you say you got it from your father. And what are you doing differently with your son that your father didn't do with you?
And I say this in the way of every man should evolve. You should always be evolving. We don't need to duplicate. I don't think the good Lord brings us here to duplicate the lives of others. Mm-hmm. I can't be my father, and my father can't be me. Mm-hmm. So anything I'm doing for my son is just the foundation came from him. But if you were to ask me how I've evolved, I think it's more in the love piece. Mm-hmm. Is that I tell audiences, my father's heard this before, because he was a tough he was caring, but a tough provider, you really didn't hear words from him saying, I love you, right? He'd give you a hug and dap you up, and he would demonstrate love every single day, right? But the words may not come out. And I realized with my son and the distractions of the community, and you see a lot of people that make bad decisions, young people, they're doing it because they're lacking love. Yeah. And they're searching for it in a gang. They're searching for it in a clique. I said, my son's never going to have to search for love. Because he's going to know every single day that his father loves him. So I'm always hugging on my son, kissing on my son, praying over my son to make sure that he knows he's loved. And I think that's the biggest point for me is our prayer life, and also me telling him verbally to his face that I love you.
Wow.
Shouts out to Quest because he's sitting in the audience.
Yeah. One time for my cameraman, one time for my bodyguard, one time.
He's watching over you right now.
Always, brother, always.
So, and I love that. I can actually relate to that in so many different ways because in my household, it was the same way. I would get a big hug, but it wasn't until my daughters came along that I actually heard my father say, hey, I love you. And I remember looking up like, right. Man, I'm like 40-some years old. I never actually heard that come out your mouth. Right. But it's girls are different, but, and it's funny how people change over time.
That's right.
And
he tells his grandson all the time, I love you, son. I love you, grandson.
Really?
And I'm on the phone like, give me some of that love. Let me get a piece. But again, and I'm not taking anything away, and I think your statement, it's typical of that generation.
Exactly.
It's not typical of my father. It's typical of that generation, but we just have to evolve as men.
Indeed.
There's lots of things that the manhood archetype used to be that it needs to change. One of the things I talk about when I work with men of color is being in touch with your emotions is not a soft thing. Yeah. That we're human. And pushing in things like love or fear or uncomfortableness, you need to be able to find a way to express that from a healthy platform. And I think a lot of our fathers and grandfathers, we were taught just to push that down and go to work. But to me, that's not healthy. Oh, no. So again, just having an emotional connection with who you are, I think it makes you a more accessible person.
Excellent. Now, I gotta branch off a little bit because there are so many fatherless boys. Right. And that's kind of part of your mentorship, correct? Right. What is it that you're doing or part of the mentorship that is helping those young men evolve into men or young boys evolve into men?
Great question. I tell audiences when I travel that the two things that will keep someone's attention is their purpose and their first name. So if you talk to me and you say my name enough, Brian, and you say inspiration, no matter where my mind drifts, if I hear my name or inspiration, I'm going to lock back in. So the first thing I do is, and I tell audiences, it's so funny, I can be in a room for 15,000 people at a conference about to do a keynote, and I tell the whole audience I love you. And it's a weird environment that happens really quickly because, again, you're not used to people sincerely telling you, I love you.
Right.
And then I joke with the audience, and I say, I guarantee someone in here is saying, you don't know me. Right. How you going to love me? And I tell them, I don't have to know you to love you. Yeah. I love your spirit. I love the world you're creating my son will benefit from. So number one, I tell my guys I love them. And I show them that daily. And when you're mentoring and when you're guiding, the key to that is being authentic and being consistent. Don't be there one day and gone another day. Too many of our young men already deal with abandonment issues. Number two, I help them grow strong enough to realize they were born for a reason and a season and that you're worthy of the purpose God put in your life. Oh, wow. And someone once told me you can't attract what you don't believe you're worthy of. Right. So if you don't feel worthy, if you don't feel like you're deserving of that dream or that mission, that calling, you're not going to step into it. And I think once I do that, work with their purpose, work with the love inside of them, I think it does well.
Excellent. I love that. Lauren, I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. I kind of wanted to touch on your background in education. And one of the things that I promised audiences is that you would tap into the important role that education plays in kind of creating legacy for people of color, but also expanding that legacy. How do you interweave that in your mentorship? I mean, I know a lot of the things that you do are academic based, but talk to us about what it means in terms of education and creating legacy for people of color. What is the significance there for us? Why is that important for us?
I think at the end of the day, education is what levels the playing field. And you have to be out here, you have to be qualified, you have to be credentialed. And I don't care what you do. I've been a vice principal, dean of students. Even as a motivational speaker that travels the country, they want to know what's your credentials. Yeah. What's your background? I mean, are you someone that's from theory or from application? And I think, but I will say this, is that I've taught at several schools, and it needs to be the right school, and it needs to be the right educators. I think sometimes people can teach from their own deficit, if you guys can get that. Right. A lot of us adults, if we put our dreams on a shelf, it's very hard to teach our students to dream big when you're not even living your own dreams. Right. So I used to tell people, they say there's a cliche that says when you have children, you stop living your life and live your life for your children. But I don't believe that's necessary. The God I serve has made me strong enough that I can live my own dreams and also be a super dad to my father. Because even right now, my son gets a chance to witness me living out my dream, even on the radio show with you guys.
Amen.
Same with teachers. I've seen a lot of teachers that do more harm than good because they're not being authentic. I used to do a workshop when I do professional developments called I'm Here to Ignite the Great Teachers and then make the rest of you guys quit. Wow. Because some people don't need to be in the classroom.
Wow.
When you're in the classroom, you really are, I don't know if you knew this, but pilots, when they report to the tower about their passengers, they call them souls. And they'll tell them, I have 177 souls on board. This is like pilot talk.
Wow.
And when you're a teacher, you're dealing with souls.
Yeah.
And if you're not really loving students, you need to leave the classroom immediately because you're doing more harm than good. And again, I think the right teacher, the right school system with a top-down leadership levels the playing field for people of color to make sure that we can pursue our dreams with the least amount of resistance, even though we'll get resistance anyway. Yeah. So I think is essential.
Okay. Actually, I want to hand the mic over to Kevin for a second because you are an educator.
Look, while he's thinking of a question to ask, I have a question for you because you did put him on the spot there. He was like, I wasn't ready. So, and I love that you brought up the school system, the culture of the school system. How does that change? Because so many times we're seeing the bad news. And I know what's going on in Prince George's County. I've seen what you're doing in Prince George's County. I've seen what the men of Prince George's County are doing. But that doesn't necessarily get conveyed in the media I see it in some social media, but the culture in some cases is just, it's bad. I never want to send my child there or any. Yeah, from a dean's perspective or former dean or former vice principal, how would you relate to that?
I think the responsibility first and foremost is on the parents.
Yeah.
You're a taxpayer in that community. Your voice means a lot. You'd be surprised. When I was in administration, you'd be surprised. The parent, you guys have the biggest voice in the building. They listen to the parents more than listen to the teachers. And if you're active, what you can't do is drop your child off and expect them to do all the groundwork.
Right.
You are the child's first teacher, father and mother.
Yeah.
So I think that comes from that. You have to be active in the school. Mm-hmm. On top of that, you have to have a strong principal that believes in going above and beyond and not just teaching to the test. When I first came to the county, I was in Prince George's County. And it was all about the MISPAP national standardized testing, which made me leave. I stayed in the county about 4 or 5 years, and I went off into charter schools. Okay. And that's where I spent a majority of my time in charter schools in D.C., where they had more freedom to explore different routes of education.
Right.
But again, I think everything starts and stops with the parents in terms of being advocates. You have to advocate. It's not a babysitting center. This is their school.
Right.
Hold them accountable. Yeah. Does that make sense? Hold them accountable. Everything starts and stops in there. And I think sometimes as parents we get a little bit lazy, a little bit burnt out by running around and working, that we put all the education component on our school and not ourselves.
Indeed. Excellent. Thank you.
Just a comment or piggyback on that. It sounds like, I don't know if you know who Killer Mike is, rapper from Atlanta.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely.
And one of his big platforms is talking about, I saw him recently on the Breakfast Club, and he was talking about how he wasn't, his kids go to public schools, and he kind of put the onus on the parents, people to be involved as far as the community. It was a very interesting thing. Maybe about in the summertime, I rode past this school. It was a middle school, elementary school. Across from the school is a large park. And it was so many cars lined up. And I was looking over there to see what was going on. It was a football practice. Right. And I said, it's interesting that at 7 p.m., everybody can come out to the football practice to care about their kids, but not the PTA conferences. Not when it's time for the school to say, hey, we need some parental support to do this or to do that. You never see that entire parking lot of the school packed as much as a football game. And I always wonder why, in certain communities, the priorities are mismanaged like that. What is your thoughts on this as far as being from the inside as a teacher?
I mean, we all know that situation, that sometimes in our community we put more emphasis on entertainment and sports. Yeah. I have guys I know personally who are in both, so I don't knock the hustle at all, but everyone's not built to be a professional athlete. There's only 5,000 professional athletes in the country, right, who actually get paid to do that. I don't know if folks know that number. Yeah. 5,000 that get paid to do it.
I didn't know that number.
And that's 5, all sports combined. That's all sports combined? 5,000 professional athletes in this country.
That's it.
That's nothing.
That's nothing. So imagine the likelihood of you breaking through, right? Wow. But again, if we were to take back the narrative, it's one of the hashtags I use a lot, taking back the narrative of making sure that we write a new story. When Black Panther came out, I was a big supporter, obviously, but we can't dream of a Wakanda but not be prepared to build a Wakanda. Right. I used to tell audiences, man, when Empire, the show, first came out, you will rewrite your whole schedule for that week to watch Empire, but won't spend a half-hour week on your own to build your own empire. Right. So you have to really be cautious of where you put your priority. Yep. And again, I love sports. My son is involved in AAU basketball. He's a big fan of the sport of athletics. But we have to have, to me, I call it fly genius, where you can be fly and contemporary and all of that, but you also are brilliant and bold. And we need to have that balance when it comes to our community, is that we want to push a healthy balance of being bold and smart. Yeah. Back in the day, if you were smart, you were a nerd. Yeah. And if you were the athletic guy, you weren't that bright. Why do we have to fit in those boxes? So I call myself a stereotype killer. I'm not the average motivational speaker. I have tattoos all up down my arm. I dress a certain way. But it's me being authentic, that I don't have to win on someone else's terms. Yeah. And our community should not have to conform to what we've been seeing as success pathways. We can do it all.
Right. I have a question, kind of, I guess, capitalizing on what you're talking about there in terms of shattering stereotypes and encouraging people to be smart and bold. In your mentoring, how do you combat the conversations that a lot of children deal with when they're ready to give up, right? And not just those young boys who are coming from single mothers' home, not just those, but I'm a young boy of color. I'm trying, it's not working. It just seems like every time I go into the classroom, there's always an issue. There's always an implicit bias, as they say in research circles. How do you, what kind of piece of information do you give your young mentees to help them continue going forward, to push them, to help them kind of maintain that ignition, that igniting that you initially ignite in them? How do you help them maintain that? Because every single day there's an obstacle. Every single day there's something that they have to come up against. And, I think as adults, we forget that children have obstacles. They deal with struggles on a daily basis when they're going into school and they're wanting to fit in, and then they're finding themselves in trouble and they're trying to, so kids have obstacles too at every age, at every level. Right. What is that piece of information that you would give them, particularly our boys of color, to inspire them, to help them, maintain, sustain?
Well, recently, and I think some of you guys know, in at the top of the year, probably around October, I released my second book called Get Ignited, and it went #1 as a hot new release on Amazon. And one of the things I talked about, thank you, so I appreciate it, bro. One of the things I talked about in one of the final chapters talked about you have to watch your diet. And your diet, when you say that, normally the connotation is the food you eat. But I expand upon in the book talking about your diet is not just the food you eat, but the visuals you take in, what you read, what you see, the energy around you, the people around you. And often, I'll give you an example. I have a morning ritual every single day where I'm listening to T.D. Jakes as soon as I wake up in the morning. After that, some motivational speakers, maybe some music. Then I have a cool conversation with my son on different father-son principles on the way to school. That sets my tone. So answering your question indirectly is that there's not one magic saying you can tell a young man to stay on track constantly. It has to be reinforced. The same way you go to the gym every single day. People kill me. They complain about their marriage but don't want to work on their marriage. But they'll go to the gym every day to try to lose that weight. And you'll do the consistent things in a diet to look physically better, but you won't commit that same effort in terms of keeping a strong mental mindset. So again, I tell my young men, this is something of a lifestyle change. Like people in the fitness world, because I love to work out, talk about getting ready with their summer body. That very rarely, by the time you're ready for your summer body, the summer body done left, the summer is over, it's August, September, and you restarting for the next year. But you really want to have a lifestyle change where good stuff doesn't come out if it doesn't first go in. So YouTube videos, cool books, cool audios. I mean, there's so many people out there putting out great content like yourselves, is that if you really want to be able to, this is what I realize, the greater the calling on your life, the greater the obstacles you may face. And you don't know when and how they're going to come. But if you keep a strong mental attitude by cultivating a good circle of people, staying away from toxic environments, and again, watching your diet, I guarantee you're going to win more battles than you lose.
Excellent. Yeah, I got a question now. So, and I got to speak on behalf of my wife, who is the fashion person in our house.
Fashionista.
Yeah, fashionista.
No, that's right.
And yeah, I'm putting you on the spot.
I see just a little bit.
For our young men, and I remember the first time I saw you, and I saw the tats, I saw the way you were dressed, and I was truly engaged. It wasn't the typical public speaker I was used to, knotted up with the tie, shirt and tie. And what do you say to our young men where I know I have to teach my son, or I taught my son on how to dress a certain way, how to look a certain way, just for visual aspect. But then I love the way you're coming with this, but I know people will view you differently from the typical straight arrow, khakis, tie, or just a white shirt.
But I kind of love that. I think we all need to have a little bit of mystery. I think we need to remain, a part of us needs to be unpredictable. I think people size each other up way too quickly. So I used to be a personal trainer at Washington Sports Club in Gallery Place. And I would leave, I'd have Tim's on, sweatpants, tats, my work shirt. But I have a Napoleon Hill Think and Grow Rich unabridged version that was about this big. And I could feel people on the train trying to size me up like, well, he has tats, he has Tim's, but that book is huge. We can't determine who he is or what he's about, and I love it.
Right.
A lot of people aren't authentic. They're being who they're told to be. But let me also just answer your question directly. Young men, I think you have to earn your authenticity.
I was about to say that.
When I first started working at Prince George's, I didn't go to the interview with a T-shirt and tats and the jeans. I had a full suit on, looking slick, had my Ghost from Empire, from Power look, you know what I'm saying, fitted, looking good. And I think you need to be versatile. I think that you need to have casual wear, formal wear, things for the streets. And what happens is the young men are just trying to keep their identity intact. They work so hard, and same with ladies, that when you're leaving your childhood and going into your adult years, anything that's asked upon you then, you feel like you're losing something. So it could be their dreads or their style or whatever they dress. And I'm saying, level up. Level up. The same people you like, the Jay-Z's, the Sean Carters, even Lil Wayne's I've seen throw suits on based upon the environment they're in. Does that make sense? The other part of it is I think there's magic in your authenticity. So to me, if I come looking like Steve Harvey, who's my frat brother and I love him, but the 7-button suit is not my game plan. Right? That's his generation. That's his swag. I'm a product of hip hop. So to me, it doesn't mean I got to wear like Air Force Ones and a matching hat. I didn't say the stereotypical that it has to look a certain way. Hip hop. Hip hop is about freedom. Everyone up here is a product of hip hop in some degree. I can see the elements. Does that make sense? So to me, I want to be powerful in my authentic space. But to young men, earn your authenticity. Meaning, it's funny when people read my bio. And then there is no questions about how I dress. Because they see the 25 years in education. They see the books I've written. They see the award-winning documentaries. They see the lives I've changed, the people I've shared stages with. Colin Powell, Holly Berry, working all these people. Okay, we're going to look over those jeans and that tattoo. The brother's obviously out here working. So young men, get credentialed, get qualified, and be able to walk into your authentic space with confidence.
Excellent. I love that. Thank you. Y'all hear that, brass? Get it together, okay? Go get yourself a suit.
That's right. That's right.
I like the way you put it. You have to earn your authenticity. And I appreciate that. Go and get credentialed. I actually was having a conversation with a colleague yesterday because I recently started working at the University of Maryland. And as a result, I've decided I'm going to go get my PhD because they're going to pay for it. So why not, right?
Oh, that's right.
Congrats.
I mean, so I start my PhD in the fall, and I'm like super boosted. And he was like, kind of talking to me about why I wanted to do it. And I told him, I said, I didn't say I want to earn my authenticity, but essentially that's what I was saying to him. Like, I want to be credentialed. Right. I want to be taken seriously. And it's not that I'm not taken seriously now, but in the space that I'm trying to enter, I want to speak from a place of authority. And I'll be able to speak from a place of authority when I have done my research, when I have put in the work, when I have hit the ground running, and I can say, here are the fruits of my labor. Mm-hmm. And here, not just who they are, but they are supported. They have been defended. They have been published. And now I'm ready to soar. Right. And so I think to Brian's point, a lot of people overlook that process, like that earning your authenticity process. Everybody just wants to come out the gate and be like, well, people are either going to accept me for me or not, and I have something to say, and what I'm saying is important. It's kind of like, well, where are you coming from with that message? Right.
And a good example of that, unfortunately, is a person I've always admired. I still enjoy his music. Would be Kanye. And I think, I connected to Kanye very early on when I was becoming a motivational speaker.
Everybody started doing something else with the
show.
show.
But check the realness. In the very beginning, Kanye was an unfiltered dream chaser. When I talk about my brand is really targeted to dreamers. As I transition from the academic setting to more inspiration and entertainment, my market really is dreamers. And Kanye was that dreamer when the first couple albums and talking about issues and the soulful beats. But one thing I realize is, for some reason over time, he now feels that because of his success and because of his accolades, that he has the power to speak on issues. But that's the key thing. I'd love speaking up. Yeah. But be knowledgeable of the platforms you're speaking to. Yes. How do you speak to someone's politics if you don't know their politics? How do you speak to someone's cause or something you want to fight for, but you don't know the cause? Yep. So now what you're doing is you're putting your ignorance on display. And what tends to happen is these people who are celebrities and have celebrity influence, you are getting access to circles and rooms that more qualified people would die to be in. So they asked T.I. one time. They asked T.I. one time, would he ever meet with Donald Trump? And he was like, sure, if I could take Louis Farrakhan with me.
Right.
Hello.
Like, I'm going to take somebody with me that is prepared to have a mental, political, spiritual conversation so that I'm not getting caught in the trick bag and being used as a prop or a trophy. So again, you have to be qualified. And I tell my young men, do me a favor. Don't run to entrepreneurship, don't run to athletics, and don't run to entertainment because you think there's less work demanded of you. Right. That you don't have to get qualified to be in entertainment. You don't have to get qualified to be in sports. Yep. The work could be even harder. Yep. Now you have the physical demands and the platform of the scrutiny of everybody be on you. I don't care what you are. Don't be a person that comes from theory. Be a person that comes from application. Don't tell me what you're going to do. Tell me what you did.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah. Love that. Love Daddy.
I was going to say that is probably the model of my life. No, because, you look at social media and you can constantly see an array of entrepreneurs. 1 year they selling this, the next year they doing that, now they doing this. And there's no sustainability. There's no consistency. A lot of them will have a lot of lows because, to your point, where's the application in the theory that you're trying to now push out about some lifestyle? Okay, now you're a lifestyle guru and you're 25. You're a 25-year-old lifestyle guru for who? Right. Who you're not my lifestyle guru at 25. Not at all.
What kind of lifestyle have you really lived?
Well, exactly. I think what you're doing with the mentorships, with your mentees, and encouraging them to earn their authenticity, to go out, to do the work, to actually put in, kind of dive into their process of coming into their own. I think it's an important step that every single person in their life should be taking. Because now we're going to have a generation full of people who know a whole lot of nothing. And they think they know a whole lot of everything. And they're always talking about how they know a whole lot of everything. And I feel like there's no substance to a lot of the content that's coming out.
And I think a lot of it's social media. Because of the live Instagrams, and again, I love social media, but you have to use it the right way. Yeah. And because you can get discovered, quote unquote, discovered online, and you become viral. Look at Jussie Smollett. Incredible talent to some degree. If you love his singing, you love his acting. Whatever way you support that brother. But I don't know if it was other things in play, but to go to the extent of allegedly creating a whole crime scene in the name of, I guess, a positive cause in terms of racism, the LGBTQ community. But I really think it also became, my star has fallen, my music's not moving, the ratings aren't there, let me do something shocking. And what starts to happen is, instead of searching for a substance, we're looking for hype. So these young guys who are 16, 17 are life coaches.
Right.
Yeah.
They're on the gram telling you what you should be doing. And I'm like, bro, you're 16, my G. Right. I might as well talk to my son. You know what I mean?
Right.
I think I'm gonna trust his judgment more than yours.
Yeah.
Now, again, I never condemn. I did a big event, a Players to Omega. So I did a big event at Bowie University years ago by the Omegas, and one of the main keynotes came on stage and started just tearing up all the new iconic hip-hop guys. And that's what I never do, because I listen to all of them. But you have to listen and give people an ear based upon what they're giving you. I'm a big fan of J. Cole. Yeah. I'm a big fan of Vince Staples. I'm a big fan of Kendrick. Younger guys, not so much younger than me, but they're giving me some good value. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yes.
Long term, you want to live out your theory before you start preaching your theory. Does that make sense? I can't tell you what you need to be doing if I myself have not done that. How am I tell my son to chase his dreams? Again, we're talking about, your substance. How can I tell my son to chase his dreams if he never saw me chasing mine? Does that make sense? Now he has a real life blueprint to follow, and he doesn't say, well, I want to be like Diddy. I want to be like Snoop. And I'm like, well, Diddy and Snoop don't pay these bills. Right. So let me show you the guy who's really running his house, and I'm going to show you how to be a dream chaser inside of your home. And again, sometimes with social media, it's they don't show like, I'll give you an example. Kevin Hart said he's a 15-year overnight success. Woo. The power of that statement, a 15-year overnight success. So when y'all think he just became what he calls the comedic rock star overnight, for 15 years he's putting the work in. Yeah. And like Jeezy says, the process, trust the process. Yes. There's so much in your lifetime. If you look on your gravestone, it has the date you were born and the date the good Lord brought you back. You know the most important part of that gravestone? The dash in the middle.
Yeah. What'd you do?
That's the living legacy, like you talked about, Lauren. That's the legacy, is that dash. And again, stop looking at likes and retweets and posts. That's in the moment. Right. But what about the long term? How will the world remember you when you're gone? And it won't be, oh, you had 1 million likes. Yeah. I guarantee it won't be that.
Right. I got to end it here just because we have another show coming right up. But I have to ask you, I've loved this. Thank you very much.
Much appreciated, man.
And what do you have coming up? You got a couple of things coming up?
Well, I'm about to be done with these tours, man. So my third or fourth national tour. I did about 10 dates already, about 5 more dates left, a couple dates in Jersey. I'll be doing the Clemson, is the largest black and brown male summit in the country. That's the 24th, 25th, I do believe, at Clemson University. I have the Akron Black Male Summit. Then I have something very special for you guys, but I'm going to keep it under wraps. It'll be my largest stage production ever in my life. Okay. I'm changing the game in terms of what inspirational speaking looks like. Okay. I think the college circuit is cool, but I've done that enough. And now we're looking for larger platforms, Megatron screens, downtown Times Square type stuff. Excellent. So I'm gonna keep that under my wraps right now. I have one of the best stage directors in the country working alongside me. I'm not going to expose her name right now, but just in the next year, I'm gonna be kind of quiet. Okay. Just bubbling behind the scenes. But 2020, we have some major things happening. Again, my thing is we weren't born to duplicate. We were born to innovate. And if you're not pushing the cultural needle, I get bored. Yeah. So I love the impact of colleges. I love the impact of doing what I do. But I had a quote that hit my spirit this morning. If you feel greater, do greater. If you feel greater, do greater. And right now, my spirit wants to expand. I want to start doing more things overseas. Okay. I have a children's book I'll be dropping in the next 2 years. It'll be my 3rd book. So again, I'm just following God's calling on my life, being a tremendous father at the time. And also, again, celebrate my birthday. I turned a couple years older.
Happy birthday.
Pisces season. So again, we celebrating life, man. I'm just honored to be with you guys this morning. Thank you for the invitation.
Oh, it's our pleasure. Our pleasure. Anybody else have anything to say?
No, I was going to say thank you for coming here today. I feel like our audience is going to be very, very inspired by everything they heard today. Yes, where can they find you, follow you?
Yes. Social media, go to Brian Heat, one word, Brian Heat, BrianHeat.com. Website is BrianHeat.com. And Facebook, you have Brian Heat Worldwide, and the personal is Brian Heat, one word. So again, man, catch me on social media, a lot of quotes, a lot of jewels. multi-dimensional, man. I'm not the guy that you go on my Instagram and there's a million pictures of me in my car telling you about your life. No knock to those who do that, but I love music. I love culture. You're going to see a lot of stuff on my page that just gives you some depth about things happening in the world, and it's not just me. But again, man, thank you for what you guys are doing. People like me would not have platforms or voices if it wasn't for these type of opportunities. So again, you guys keep shining and keep doing the things you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you for saying
thank you
that.
again, folks, for tuning into the Culture Divide Experiment. Thank you for being part of the experiment where we take off the mask, we take off the filter, and we have real conversations about our lives, our community, and our world. So thank you very much. We're out, folks. We'll be back in a few.
One time.
What's up, man? How you like it?
Hey everyone, you're back here with us, the Cultural Divide Experiment at the Living Stage at the RL Hotel. Our second guest, or our guest with us right this hour, is Mrs. Lauren Jackson. I don't have her bio in front of me, but I will tell you this. She is a phenomenal producer, production professional. She's currently working on a documentary called The Nathan Carter Story, or title to be continued. Yes. And today we're going to talk to Lauren about some of the things that she's working on. Lauren, thank you for coming on the show. Before we get started talking to Lauren, let's shout out to the host. Hey, Kevin.
How you doing?
I like to put Kevin on the spot. Sharice.
Hello.
And Barry.
What's good? Welcome
so I'm going to let Barry take it off from here.
Welcome back to You're Inside the Culture Divide Experiment. My name is Barry J., and thank you very much again, Lauren, for coming on and telling. We want to know about your project.
Yeah, absolutely.
We want to hear a lot about it.
Okay, well, thank you so much for having me. So I am actually working on a documentary that's featuring the life and impact of Dr. Nathan Carter. And Dr. Nathan Carter, he was a music composer, a teacher, and he was the chairperson at Morgan State, their music department, for 34 years at Morgan State University.
Oh, wow.
And he had an incredible impact on not only the university, but my story is really to tell the stories of the individual lives that he impacted. Mm-hmm. And part of the reason I got interested in this story is because I met a beautiful bass baritone singer named Garrett Jackson, who's my husband now. And I sort of followed the story of his voice.
Interesting.
And it was really from the moment I met him. I mean, like literally the day I met him, I was like, what do you do with this voice?
Tell me a little bit more of that. I like that. I mean,
it drew me in, and then I found out that he had a background in singing, and he went to Morgan State on a full music scholarship. Mm-hmm. And honestly, I'm a graduate of Howard University, HU in the house, but I got love for all HBCUs.
Yes, HBCU Nation.
Right. So it was interesting because I didn't actually know how powerful and how impactful the Morgan State Music Department was. Mm-hmm. And so I started sort of learning more about his background, and then he was introducing me to a lot of friends who sang with him in college. And this became a pattern. Every concert we went to, every church performance, everywhere we were going, I was being introduced to powerful, incredible talent. And these are unknown singers and lovers of Dr. Nathan Carter music that he wrote and composed and arranged. And there was this theme, like a lot of them were connected to him. In the middle of a concert, a soloist, a pianist, whoever, would go to the microphone and would have some sort of story about Dr. Nathan Carter. And we're about to do a Dr. Nathan Carter selection right now.
Wow.
And
kind of this underground community.
Right. And I was like, okay, so he was a really big deal, and I didn't know at first. I was completely ignorant of who he was and his impact, but that's okay. That's what we're here to learn about and understand. So one day I asked, I said, is he still at Morgan State? And they were like, no, he passed some years ago. So he passed in 2004. Uh-huh. So you talk to people about Dr. Nathan Carter, and they speak about him as if he was here just yesterday. So I really started to research people's individual stories. How did you come to know him? Did you know you wanted to be a singer? Was that your path? And I'm learning more about how he taught them about life and how to be, especially because he had an impact on how they were going to be perceived as men and women of color in their community. And there's a lot of really great stories to tell. if you wanted me to tell just one story about the
you got to tell one story.
Okay.
You got to tell one story.
So I found out that when he got to Morgan State University, they hadn't done any international tours or anything like that. And so in the 70s, early 70s, 71, he petitioned for them to do an international tour. Mm-hmm. So the choir ended up singing in Finland and London, and then they got invited to go to Russia. At the time was USSR.
Russia. Okay.
And when I spoke to one of the women who were in the choir at the time, and she said it was really awkward. We got there, and we were on a roll. We had hit every city prior to, and you get off the plane and you rehearse and you have a concert and you move on to the next. And they were on a busy schedule, but there was this lag time, and they spent a lot of time in the airport. And when they got out of the airport, they went to the hotel. Didn't go to rehearsal. There was they were doing these distracting events. And then about a day or so later, Dr. Carter told them they were going home. They weren't performing. Right. And I said, well, what happened? Did he ever explain? And she's like, well, we had too much respect for Dr. Carter to question what was happening. Like, if he told us we were going home, we were going home. Wow. She said, but in my opinion, we got off that plane with our backs straight, our hair done, dressed from head to toe, speaking well and representing an image of young black men and women that they had never seen before. Wow. And she said they didn't know what to do with us.
Wow.
And that right there is powerful.
It is.
And it is still something we face today. And it is still a shocker when those talented people, and now they're trying to take those lessons into the next generation, it is still a shocker when they show up and they show out the way they do. And they really shouldn't be shocked.
Right.
And people should continue to be inspired by it, whether you want to be a singer or not. There's a story here that everyone can relate to.
Right.
Oh, wow. I can't wait. You got
chills, right?
Right.
It's gonna be an awesome documentary.
Chills,
right?
I mean, it speaks to, and for those of you who don't know, we have an event coming up Saturday, March 23rd, so next Saturday, where you will get to see firsthand that power, that impact of Dr. Carter's legacy through the Carter Legacy Singers.
Yeah, we had the Carter Legacy Singers and we had the Selma singers, and they're coming all the way from Selma, Alabama, where he is from. Yes. And they're made up primarily of alumni of Selma, Alabama High School, where he's from.
Yes.
And we have some special guests too.
No, but that kind of speaks to the impact and the power of historically black colleges and universities. I think that unfortunately, there is some stereotypes attached to what kind of people, what kind of posture you come out with when you go to an HBCU. And what many people don't know is I feel like you come out stronger. I feel like you come out better. One of the things for me personally, what I liked about going to Bowie State was that I could access my professors.
Right.
I could call them. They would set aside time to meet with me, to talk to me. Me graduating was personal for them. Whereas when I went to the PWI, when I went to the predominantly white institution, I felt like a number. I didn't feel like there was an investment. I didn't feel like it was personal for them. So I feel like what Carter gave to a lot of his students was that I'm invested in you. I want to see you succeed. It is my personal mission to help you figure out what your life is supposed to look like. And to this day, I'm actually still in touch with professors who taught me at Bowie.
Yeah.
Professor Lowry being one of them, and Kevin knows Lowry a little, Professor Marshall, he wrote me my reference letter for my PhD.
Wow.
Professor Staples, she also wrote me my reference letter for my PhD program, to name a few. That I stay in contact with, I stay connected with, just not on social media, but occasionally I'll send a text message and say, hey, I'm working on this thing. Please check it out. Let me know your thoughts. They'll give me feedback. I'll try to arrange lunch with them. But there's something to be said for the relationships, and I want and the self-confidence I feel like you gain when you're in an environment surrounded by people who look like you, who also are striving for excellence,
right?
Who are striving to be their best selves.
Lauren, I have another question for you.
Which Lauren?
The guest Lauren. What do you hope to bring from next week? What is it that you want to convey to everyone?
So next week is the event is a really big step in this journey. I've been thinking about doing this documentary for a couple of years now, and I've kind of kept it private because I've really just been kind of doing my research and I'm just gathering resources. And this event will garner a lot of buy-in from a larger audience.
Okay.
You know, I'm already going to get that from friends and family. I have a huge support system. But now it's a time to start appealing to people who not only are already fans of Carter music and know the history, but for new fans that can understand what this did for generations. I'm talking about 34 years. So generations of young students that grew up to be these adults today that are still holding very close to the music and to the discipline and to the teachings that they gain and that personal relationship that Lauren was talking about. To some, he was like a father.
Right.
And so I want to make this a first step in making the subject relatable to a larger audience beyond the folks that understand the music. There's going to be some nuance to the documentary in terms of just talking about how powerful it was that he was one of the first to start arranging and composing some of these spirituals and hymns that we know of the church. And there's going to be a connection to African American history because these are Negro spirituals that came straight out from the field of our ancestors, right into our churches, right into these choirs, and especially these HBCU choirs. But there's also this beautiful thing that's happening where it's changing and it's something else now. And a lot of his students have taken it to the next level. And so, yes, there's going to be some more niche things about music, but there is also a story about humanity, about reaching out to the next person and about being an inspiration to the next person and about helping to realize one's purpose and to giving people opportunities to realize their purpose so that they can come out of a rural area where there was no music program and no chance of going to college. Dr. Carter would go to those areas.
Wow.
And he would bring his choir.
Wow.
And it might have been the first time one of those students ever saw anybody like that in that light. And it drew them.
Excellent.
In a lot of cases, it's the reason they went to college. He might be the reason they stayed or even graduated from college. So I'm hoping to extend that message of humanity and purpose and strength in our African American culture to the masses.
Excellent.
And this is the first step with the event next week.
Give us the times for next week.
So next week we are going to have a 4 p.m. Start time prompt, because I will tell you one thing. When you deal with a Carter kid or anyone that came from that kind of discipline, they're disciplined, they're on time.
They're on time.
So we will start at 4 p.m.
Okay.
March 23rd. It's at Zion Baptist Church.
We'll be there.
Zion, yes.
On
We'll be there.
Blagden Avenue. That's very close to 16th Street. They've been so gracious to host us. People have come out the woodworks with just donating resources. And it's really a blessing because it's one thing when you have a vision in your head, but it's another thing when you start to see people, when you start to see God move and make provision for your vision. And so there are people that are just pouring in resources to make this a successful event. And I'm just truly blessed to see it all come together next week.
So we're looking forward to it. Thank you so
Yes,
very much.
thank
you for
your time
taking
today.
the time out
And
to
we
come
want
and
to
talk
say
with
thank
us
you
today.
to everyone tuning in, listening in.
Yes.
Welcome again back to the Culture Divide Experiment. We will be back in 2 weeks,
Yes.
I believe. And actually, no, I'm sorry. We'll be next week.
Yes,
We'll
we're
be
going
out-
to
I
live
was saying
stream.
we'll be there with her next week.
and it's going to be a good time. So we want to thank everybody. Brian Heat earlier, Lauren, what's your last name?
Jackson.
Lauren Jackson. Because the other Lauren was confusing. So thank you again.
Lauren, before we end, Lauren, where can they follow you, keep up with updates about the documentary and the event?
We have a website, drcarterfilm.com, and you can also go to our Facebook page. There's a Nathan Carter documentary Facebook page, and then the biggest thing is probably going to the GoFundMe page.
Yes.
So that's GoFundMe/drcarterfilm.
Okay.
Yes. Please
And if you want
visit
to
GoFundMe.
And if you want to register for the event next
Yes.
week, it's a free event, but we are asking for RSVPs. So that's eventbrite.com, drcarterbenefit.eventbrite.com.
Yes.
Beautiful.
drcarterbenefit.eventbrite.com.
We'll put it in the show notes.
Yes, we
notes.
will.
We'll send it
We'll
out
make sure
for
of
you.
it.
So
All right.
thank you very
Thank
again.
you.
Thank you,
very much.
everyone.
Thank you. It was a
Appreciate it.
pleasure
See you
to
next
have
week,
today.
guys.
Peace.